we cannot, if we are a non-profit organization, we cannot tap on this market the same way as we would as a commercial company. We cannot sell services in the same way. But we have this mission to make sure that everything starts, and if there are needs for commercial products associated to Coq, make sure that these opportunities are exploited by whoever can do that. So, you know, the image I try to use for this consortium is like the highways. You need to have highways in a modern country, but then the people who operate these highways or operate on these highways are the truck companies or things like that. So these are you, maybe, if you want to make a startup that sells some expertise on doing Coq development. Our job is to make sure that you have the right tools to work. And the right tool for us is Coq and all the things that come with it. Okay, so and also so this is the fourth line. We also think that training is important. We want to make sure that companies will be able to start with trained personnel. In a sense, this is already the mission of universities, to train these people. We want to make sure that all works well together, to have continuous training for people who already have a job. And I think Vincent is very interested in this part. So if you think we can collectively do something to think a little more about how we want to organize training in this direction, then Vincent will be the right person to talk to. But still, you know, the reason I would like to talk here is I'm here to beg for money. I already pushed this organization to hire 2 people. I need to make sure that in not too long I can have enough money to pay for their salary. When I say I, but it's not me, you know. In fact, I'm not even considered in the hierarchy of Maxime. He answers to somebody else who is in the management of the INRIA Foundation. But he's my office neighbor, so we have this kind of the discussions on strategy of development of the consortium every week, basically. I had him on the phone this morning. So I don't remember what are in my slides. What happens thanks to the consortium, or thanks to our new start with? I don't know if all you the PIs will remember. We had the 8.5 version came after 3 or 4 years of waiting, and started from that date. At that time, Maxime started to try to shake the organization of the development. Starting from that moment, we tried to say, now we want to switch to a time-based release cycle. So time-based means we fix the date in advance, and whatever functionality is ready for shipping is going to be shipped. And if you're not ready, it should not be too serious, because the next one won't be too far. The problem before was it was always a big drama, because if you miss the release, you know the next release is going to be in 4 years. And by then, you probably will have children and be married and be somewhere else. So now with this, we hope to release the drama. There still is some drama. People are sometimes a bit upset about the fact that the integration of their proposal is not always made, but we're moving in this direction, and I think most of the young guard of developers, Pierre-Marie, Mathieu, and they all are very excited about working in this manner. So I think this kind of style is there to stay. Now, before the way we worked is we just trusted people. We had these people that were trained that, yeah, we knew how to, from talking with them, most of the time the developers were all in the same corridor. From talking together, they knew they built some trust, and that was it. You wanted to add something in the Coq system, you could do it. Now we are trying to move to something where the fact that everybody is in the same hallway is not true, and also we are also now discover bugs that were introduced in one big chunk in the 8.5 version. So we want now to have code reviews and things like that. So the team is really putting processes in place that are more demanding than what we were accustomed to do when we just considered this as a research project. It's not just a research project anymore. And we have it's written, so you can all see it. Actually, you can see it at work because it's all on GitHub, and it's completely transparent. And I think it's also on GitHub that it's very clearly marked who is owner of what part of the code and who is going to take responsibility for that. So we have a few difficulties because there are part of the codes for which the owner has accepted to do it, but doesn't feel completely competent. So the way we and this is a problem that we will always have as an open source project, is that people come and go. Sometimes the people who are maintaining are not the people who introduced a functionality, and we have to be careful about this. But I hope that with the consortium, because we are hiring people that are very competent and can work on this full time, we'll be able to cover all the difficult cases. So as I said, so now we'll have owners that take responsibility for accepting a patch for a given part of the code. For a few years, Maxime was doing this job for the whole system. And it's a very difficult task, so it's not the right thing. Is it interesting as information, or okay? As I said, you can all see it working on the daily basis. So one information that is interesting is that there is this GitHub. So you have a lot of pull requests. There are a lot of discussions in the pull requests. I don't know if one of the developers managed to follow all of them, but I think it's the case. For me, it's too much information. We have Coq working groups that still happen. That's still a very French thing that it happens either in Paris or we do it by video conferencing. But we try to make it available on YouTube. So I think Paul Steckler, who was working with Adam Schlipala at MIT, would follow these meetings through the YouTube channel that we open every time we have this meeting. So these meetings are announced on the Coq Dev mailing list. So if you pay attention, you will see them come, and you will have an occasion to follow them if you want. We try to have so right now in the situation in terms of animation is that we have a winter workshop, which is mostly associated with Popl. We have a summer workshop associated with ITP most of the time. And we have a developer workshop. So the first two instances of this developer workshop were organized by me and my colleagues in Sophia Antipolis. The third one was organized in Nantes by the team of Nicolas Tabarot. And the fourth one was organized in Nice this year, again by me. And so this is if you want to develop a plugin that will contain some OCaml code, this is a good place to have information. So, but aside from the fact that you can contact developers at any time. And one way of contacting the developers at any time is to go on Gitter. So Gitter is a chat room provider which is associated to GitHub. So it's very interesting because you can easily, in your chat conversation, refer to parts of the code or parts of the issues or pull requests. So we're also trying to develop a contributor's guide for people who want to add code to the system. And the result is that it's really, we can really feel that there is an increase of external contributions. So, but external contributions is as much, it's a how do you say in English? A mixed blessing, because it adds more work to the people who are going to do the reviews. But I think it's the way to go. At some point, also external contributors will be providing reviews, and maybe as a community we can start to work in such a competent collective way. So now I'm going to wrap up by explaining what are topics that. So I didn't know what was in the plans. But Maxime prepared these slides, and he is really deeply involved in all the development. So here are the things that he thought were really in the work and worth mentioning. So one of the things that we all know is that Coq received a library of pre-existing proofs, where the design is basically non-existent. That is, people thought we should have a library for lists, but it's not complete. And the result is that most of the time, everybody who wants to manipulate collections of data with lists, they use this library, and then they add a few of theorems on their own. On their side, they have their list complements or library complements file. And there is a lot of duplication on this work. So what happens is that actually there are already quite a few efforts that have been made. So STDPP is by Robert Krebers, XTlib is by Gregory Maleka, and MathComp is another example of a library that tried to be very complete. So the objective would be to try to see if we can make a synthesis of all that. So, of course, there is always this risk. You know this joke on SKCD about there are already 12 standards for communication on this kind of domain. Let's unify them. And a few weeks later, now there are 13 standards. So maybe we can avoid this this trap. This is the word I was looking for. Okay, so this is one of the possibilities. The other thing is that we use OPAM for providing packages right now, for making it easier for every one of us to reuse work of other people. Well, OPAM is only slightly satisfactory. It works very well for everybody who's working on the Linux and Mac OS, I think. But it has a big hole in the racket. What do you do for people who are under Windows? So that's a difficulty. And another thing is, so I don't know if you've heard about the Nix Linux distribution. So it's much more functional. And OPAM has some traits that are too imperative. So people are thinking that maybe that should change. But anyway, OPAM is only the bottom layer. That's not the main question. The main question is, how do you get information about what exists in the packages and which packages are available for your version for the version of Coq that you are using or things like that. And so right now, all this is underdeveloped, and we need to do it better. So maybe there will be work on. Well, this is what Maxime said. There will probably be work on this, and the fact that Nix provides a nice example of package management in using a functional approach. That's, I think people would want to use that as an inspiration. But maybe it's not so much the actual technical details than how do we organize the information, the ease with which we can get information about existing packages and how to install them. That is important. So another aspect that that is in the works, I think Emilio Gallego is playing quite a role on this one, is that a lot of us are using Proof General, a lot of us are using Coq IDE, but these, if you try to understand the future of these setups, they are not very good, they're not great. That is, Proof General basically is not maintained by the developers of Proof General anymore. So we maintain something that keep existing, but in which it's not so easy to integrate new features. For example, there was this work on making the possibility to go very fast in executing only the head of CRMs in Coq IDE. That doesn't work no. It's parallel execution of the proofs and all that. That doesn't work well in Proof General. There was an experiment that was developed by Paul Steckler, but it's not ready for general usage. And now that Paul is not working for this project anymore, it's another thing that may have to stay dormant for a few months. Another thing that was really interesting, especially for teaching newcomers, is you can actually run Coq inside your web browser. I don't know if you noticed that, but the OCaml code of the Coq system can be processed through the OCaml to JavaScript preprocessor, and then it can be given to a JavaScript compiler, and it can run in your web browser. So you can have a version of Coq that works. Not all the capabilities of Coq are supported. In particular, I think virtual machine execution does not work well. So that makes that a tactic like Ring doesn't work in this context, or didn't work until a recent time. So this is something that we are going to work on. I think it might be useful for visibility to have a way to show people what Coq is by just saying, look, open this page, and you have it running. So since last Deep Spec, Benjamin sent us a message saying, oh, you see, there's all these people that are excited by Coq and who think they can provide at least some help in documentation. So one of the results is that we decided to move on the documentation. And the first move was just to translate the old documentation from its LaTeX source format to a source format that will make it much easier to have collaborative contributions on the documentation, which is the Sphinx format. So this has been done already, but this was a migration with no change in the content. Now, if we want to improve the content of the documentation of the reference manual, well, we are in the right setup to do that. This effort can start. Another thing that's been bothering us for a while, at least it was bothering me, is the fact that how do you contribute new code inside the Coq system is very hard. Right now, the way you do that is that you reverse engineer what other people did. And sometimes you copy the wrong examples, so that's not very good. So we collectively know we need to document the right ways of doing things better. But I don't see how we are going to do all this. I think if we want to improve the quality